Now, one of the very few American and European economic officials who hasn't worked for Goldman Sachs is Ben Bernanke, Chairman of the Federal Reserve. Now, here he is with an update this week on the US economy.
Despite some recent signs of improvement, the recovery has been frustratingly slow, constraining opportunities for profitable lending.
Now, there's also, we had this week some jobless claims, the fall of 14,000 in the week to March 10th, which is pretty good news. And that's kind of confirming good news in general about the US job market. But we've got a graphic here which shows the unemployment to population ratio since the Second World War, which shows a profound fall in male employment. And now, after a big rise, female employment is falling for the first time. So it's a bit contrary to to the idea that things are rosy. Now, Mike, how do you see that? I mean, because what we're seeing is a broader view of employment as opposed to the narrow view of jobless claims.
Well, there's a view in that some of the unemployment numbers that are being published are not completely true. For example, they seem to create every month 30 or 35,000 jobs, not because they've measured them, but because it's a seasonal adjustment process. And for some months they add them, and for some months they take them away. And there's a view that in that process we're not getting the true figure. And some commentators are looking at the comparison of tax receipts, the government's tax receipts, versus these unemployment numbers, and they're noticing that there's quite a difference. Tax receipts aren't keeping pace with unemployment as reported. And you saw that graph before where male participation has been falling, and I mean there's a whole bunch of social reasons for that, but one of them is that people are just giving up looking for work.
How do you see the US economy, Bob?
I think what we're seeing in the US is a two-speed economy. Just like Australia, we've got a mining economy and a non-mining economy. What they have in the US is a private sector economy, and that's going pretty well. But then they have a government economy, which is obviously the federal government, the state governments, the local governments, and they're cutting back everywhere. So that it's quite tough if you're dealing with, you're supplying governments or working for governments. But that private sector in the US, the companies are much more efficient. There's been a lot of credit available now, and they're starting to use it. And that's one of the reasons why Wall Street is doing so well.
But it's hard to divorce the two, isn't it, Bob? Because the government, they're deleveraging like the private sector did, and that's meaning less work for road building and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the figures we see are the combination. But if you just sort of step back one, you can see that there's two separate sectors, and that's probably going to continue for a while.